Okay, my friends, hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. My name is Katrina Kofed. I am a nutritionist and health coach specializing in food psychology and long-term habit building. And today we are talking about the ketogenic diet. I've had this video requested by you guys in the comments on my other videos of my Diet Culture Debunked series, which if you haven't checked that out, highly recommend watching it. I created a little playlist so you can check it out after you're done watching this video. It's a series where I am debunking some of the craziest and also most popular diets of our time and also of like the past 30 to 40 years. So it's fun. We're going to be diving into it today. I have a lot for us to go through to evaluate the keto diet. So today I'm going to be talking about what is the ketogenic diet. I know we've all heard about it, but a lot of people don't know exactly what it entails. We're going to talk about the history of the ketogenic diet because it's a little different than what other diets have been developed for. We're also going to talk about the rules of the keto diet, what can and can't you eat on the keto diet, and we're going to be talking about how many carbohydrates you can have per day on the keto diet as well. We're going to discuss the side effects, and we're also going to discuss whether or not I would ultimately recommend this diet and how I kind of rank it from good to very, very bad. So without further ado, let's dive in. So let's start off by sort of describing what the keto diet is. So the ketogenic diet is a diet that is designed to eat a different proportion of macronutrients to put your body into a state of ketosis where you are burning fat for fuel instead of carbohydrates or glucose as an energy source, which, let's make it clear, is our body's preferred form of energy. So the ketogenic diet will typically consist of a very high fat and a medium protein diet and a very, very low carbohydrate diet. So the typical macronutrient split for the ketogenic diet is about 70 to 75% of your calories are from fat, 20 to 25% of them are from protein, and about 5 to 10% of them come from carbohydrates. So as you can tell, it's a very high fat diet. And this is one of the main reasons that a lot of health experts, health professionals, doctors, nutritionists, dietitians don't recommend this diet, because in order to get into a state of ketosis and in order to adhere to such a strict macronutrient profile, you're eating foods that are extremely high in fat and very low in carbohydrates. Now, why this matters is because a diet that's low in carbohydrates is also going to be low in things like fruits, vegetables, grains, beans, all these plant foods that have fiber in them. Fiber is a really essential nutrient for our bodies, for our digestive systems, for our health, for heart health, cardiovascular health, all these things. When you're eating such a low carbohydrate diet, your diet is pretty much going to be essentially devoid of fiber. So that's a really big red flag. And the other thing too, if you didn't catch that before, plant foods have carbohydrates in them. So when you almost entirely eliminate a lot of plant foods from your diet because you're eating such a low carb diet, you're losing out on the nutrients, the vitamins, minerals, antioxidants that fruits and vegetables, whole grains, and legumes have to offer. And that's another big sort of criticism of the keto diet, is that you're not eating these foods that are super health promoting and have a lot of protective effects against chronic diseases, against heart disease, against high blood pressure, high triglycerides, diabetes, all these other things, right? Not to mention that, the antioxidants and phytonutrients found in plant foods can also be protective for other sort of chronic diseases down the road, things like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia, that sort of thing. So that's not to say on the keto diet you can't eat fruits or vegetables at all. However, when you're sticking to such a small carbohydrate window, you have a very, very limited carb budget, if you will, of things you can eat instead. So what do people eat on the keto diet? Well, it's typically what we've seen, which will be bacon, butter, lard, a lot of high fat like eggs, a lot of meat, a lot of red meat typically. So people will be eating a ton of meat, a ton of animal products, and almost no vegetables or fruit. Now, I want to make it clear, some people will include, leafy greens, extremely low carbohydrate vegetables into their diet, maybe bell peppers, that sort of thing. So I'm not here to say you can't eat vegetables on the keto diet, but you are very, very limited in how much of them you can eat. And it's a really strict diet, right? If you can't tell. So before I get into all of the rules and the carbohydrate specifics for the keto diet, I want to tell you a little bit about the history of the ketogenic diet, because that's interesting and unique to the keto diet. It was not originally developed for weight loss, which is another common criticism of the keto diet. So let me tell you more about the history of the keto diet. So the ketogenic diet was actually first developed in the 1920s by a Dr. Wilder at the Mayo Clinic as a treatment for epilepsy in children. And at the time, it was thought that a higher fat and lower carbohydrate diet could help reduce the frequency of seizures for children with epilepsy. However, the keto diet for treating epileptic children became less popular over time as medications to treat seizures were developed, specifically anticonvulsant medications. But it saw a resurgence again in the 90s when drug-resistant patients developed epilepsy as well. So they didn't respond as well to seizure drugs, so we turned back to the keto diet as a way to hopefully reduce the number of seizures and the frequency of them that people experience. So it's pretty interesting because this is very unique to most diets. I can't think of any other diet that was initially developed for a very, very specific medical condition and did not originally intend to have the side effect of weight loss. And that, of course, is how the diet is used now, and that it's been really popular, since the early 2000s, and obviously more so in the past 5 to 10 years, it's gained a lot of popularity for its ability to cause pretty rapid weight loss. It's not uncommon to hear of people losing 20 to 30 pounds in a month on the ketogenic diet. Obviously, you, my fair viewer, are probably thinking, well, that cannot be healthy, that cannot be sustainable, and you would be right. And that is truly, I have talked to a lot of people over the past, probably 5 years, between patients and clients and just people I meet in my day-to-day life who have either tried the keto diet or they've had a family member or a friend try the keto diet. And biggest issue that I see and hear time and time again is that people will lose a lot of weight in a short period of time. They feel really excited about that weight loss, but then they hit this wall of what now? What do I do now? How do I maintain this weight loss, right? I lost 30 pounds in the last month. What the heck do I do now? Because this way of eating is not sustainable and I have no clue how to maintain this weight loss because I haven't built, the healthy eating patterns. I haven't built, nutritious meals. I haven't gotten into a habit of regular exercise, right? Health behaviors have not been prioritized, only a rapid weight loss diet. So people lose the weight, but then don't have the skills and behaviors in place to maintain their new weight loss. Because let's be very, very clear, the keto diet is not designed to be sustainable in the long run and requires a lot of work, a lot of time, just a lot of dedication to maintain this diet because it's very, very specific because you're pretty much more or less needing to track your macros while you're eating this diet. Now, the keto diet, as with any other diet, if you kind of get to a point where you're eating the same foods most of the time, you understand the macronutrient profiles of those foods, you can probably get away with not tracking every single day. However, that doesn't discount the fact that you're doing mental math all the time to figure out okay, am I going over my carb limit? How many carbs is in this food? Should I eat this or this? Or there's birthday cake at this gathering. Could I just have a tiny piece? You're doing all this mental accounting for the number of the grams of carbohydrates in your food. So instead of maybe let's say a typical 1,200 calorie restrictive diet where you're doing calorie math, here you're doing carbohydrate math. So it's not without its major, commitment and lack of sustainability for the long run. So I have hinted at this earlier. Let's get into the more specific rules of the keto diet because I think this is where people don't realize how strict the ketogenic diet is. And really, when I'm talking about the rules of the keto diet, it is that you have to adhere to this very strict limit of carbohydrates that you can have per day. And that upper limit is around 50 grams of carbohydrates per day, okay? For reference, that's the carbs in about a medium plain bagel, or it's about 1.5 bananas. And that is all the carbs you can have for an entire day. So, you might think a bagel a day, if you can still stay in ketosis and have a bagel a day, that's not bad. which I would agree with you, that's not bad. But then you have to remember that the foods you're eating the rest of the day cannot have any grams of carbohydrates, right? So you are pretty much stuck to eating strictly animal products and eating very high fat animal products to get to that point of eating about 75% fat and eating extremely low carbohydrate. 50 grams is sort of the upper limit for carbohydrate recommendations. I typically see people say anywhere from 20 to 30 grams of carbs per day, which is like, I mean, a banana has about 26 to 28 grams of carbohydrates, obviously depending on the size, but like a regular banana is less than 30 grams of carbs. So that kind of just gives you a frame of reference of like how carbohydrate restrictive this diet truly is. And I think that's something that a lot of people like don't really grasp, because we think low carb and we're used to seeing low carb, right? You think low carb, you might think paleo or maybe like Whole30 or something like that. But this is one of the rare diets where you truly have to maintain and stay under that carbohydrate limit, because you are shifting your body from a state of burning glucose and carbohydrates for fuel as its primary source to ketosis, which is where your body is burning stored fat for fuel, right? So your body is tapping into your fat stores, which is why it's so beneficial for weight loss. And absolutely, I'm not here to deny that claim. But just because something is beneficial for weight loss does not make it an overall great recommendation in the long run when it has so many other adverse health effects, right? And when the way that you achieve that weight loss is by eating such an extremely high fat diet, I mean, that's just not something any nutritionist or doctor worth their salt is ever going to recommend. So that's really the biggest, kind of the trickiest thing, is that your body has to stay in that state of ketosis. Otherwise you are not following the keto diet. And it's not so much like, the other thing too that I always like to clarify to people is it's not like, what's a similar diet? Let's say Optavia. I've done a video about Optavia. A lot of you guys had some really great feedback on there. I'll link it up here so you can go check it out. But Optavia diet is saying, okay, eat our 5 fuelings per day or 3 fuelings, whatever it is, and then have one like lean and green meal at night, which is like a vegetable and a protein. If you were to go off diet for a day and not have your Optavia fuelings and just eat like normally, and then let's say you go out and have tacos for dinner, you've just had one day like off diet and you can just keep going tomorrow. With the keto diet, your body has to stay in that state of ketosis. So as soon as you eat more carbs than what's allowed for your body to stay in ketosis, so as soon as you go over that threshold of 50 grams of carbs per day, you have taken your body out of ketosis. It's back to burning glucose for fuel, and you are going to experience the symptoms and side effects of that. And then if you want to get back into ketosis, you have to continue doing that, and your body has to transition again. So that's one of the points I really like to make about this diet, is that it's not just like a calorie restrictive weight loss diet where if you want to have an off weekend, you can just go indulge over the weekend. You can with the keto diet, but you're kicking your body out of ketosis. And you're going to experience the side effects of it, okay? Because there are some major symptoms that you will go through when you move from burning glucose to burning ketones and burning fat for primary fuel. And that gets me into the next piece, which is the side effects of the keto diet. And these are pretty intense. So I do want to clarify real quick that there are 3 main ways to know if your body is in ketosis. You can do a urine test, you can do a blood test, and you can do a breath test. And these all measure different types of ketones that can be measured, in those different outcomes. So it's clear that like you're going to have to go to a doctor, you're going to have to order like urine test strips online or something and know how to interpret those results. It is more involved to kind of understand if your body is in ketosis or not. You can also go by the symptoms that you're experiencing. So typically when people are in ketosis, they will have increased energy, they might have reduced appetite, they might have reduced fatigue. But those symptoms, in my professional opinion, are going to be a lot less reliable as a metric of whether or not you're in ketosis, right? So those can be, you can certainly use those as a metric if you've been doing the keto diet for a couple months and you definitely feel that change in energy and your appetite is much lower. However, I would not use that as a main metric to measure whether or not you're in ketosis. And I wanted to note too that grams per day of carbohydrates, that's going to look different with each person depending on height and body size, weight, that type of thing. So 50 grams of carbs per day might be the upper threshold for some people. It might be 30 grams for others, right? So again, that's just going to vary. And that's why it is probably, if you wanted to do the keto diet very seriously, which let's be clear, I would not recommend. You probably would want to get like the urine test strips or go get a blood test or something to be able to determine if your body is actually in ketosis, because you're putting in all this work to try to adhere to this diet. Do you even know if it's working? So the main side effects that people are experiencing when they go on the keto diet, they might be having a lot of weight loss or some weight loss, but they're also going to be likely to have things like fatigue, bad breath, headaches, and constipation. And that can all be attributed to changing your body's, fuel metabolism from burning glucose for fuel into burning ketones and fat for fuel. And that is, again, kind of my point here, you guys, is that it's not just like a calorie restrictive diet where you're just doing the typical thing of going into a caloric deficit to lose weight. You are quite literally forcing your body to shift from one source of fuel to another source of fuel. So you're gonna have a lot more side effects than you might typically expect. There is something called the keto flu, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with, but I have always thought that it's crazy that a diet causes such extreme side effects to the point where it is like coined the keto flu. Like, to me, that's wild, right? So the keto flu symptoms typically occur when you're transitioning from, your normal carb containing diet to the ketogenic diet. And a lot of those symptoms include what I mentioned earlier. So pretty extreme fatigue, irritability, constipation, headaches, bad breath is a big thing. It's called keto breath, where you have like this gross, sweet smelling breath. And a lot of people can also have an electrolyte imbalance as you're changing the source of the fuel for your body. So the other thing I want to touch on in this video is that it's not supernatural for your body to be in a state of ketosis or burning fat for fuel. The only times that your body will naturally go into ketosis are, one, if you're fasting. So if you're fasting for a prolonged period, your body will tap into fat stores once you burn through the available glucose and glycogen in your body. Two are if you change your diet to force your body into a state of ketosis, right? So if you don't give it carbohydrates available for fuel, your body will turn to ketones and to stored fat to use as fuel instead. And three is starvation. So when rare conditions happen where we are forced into starving and we don't have any available food, again, your body taps into stored fat that's available and will burn that instead. So I also kind of like to point this out to people when talking about the keto diet, because I want you guys to understand that ketosis is not a supernatural state for the body. Does that mean it is not beneficial? I would argue most of the time that it is not recommended. But that being said, if you are someone who's looking to, like, let's say, lose 50 pounds of fat, doing something like fasting, using a tool like that to help you burn more fat could be effective, right? And if you really wanted to do something, I would recommend, incorporating well-planned and well-timed out fasts into your lifestyle instead of going on something like the keto diet. So all of that to say, really, with the ketogenic diet, the biggest concerns overall are that you are eating such a high fat diet, right? I mean, think about this. When you are having a lot of animal products, a lot of red meat, a lot of saturated fat, a lot of cholesterol, we have quite a bit of research that shows increased cholesterol levels in people following the ketogenic diet. I don't think, because it's still like relatively new that this diet is being used, we don't have a lot of long-term data to show like what are the longer range effects of following the keto diet for, let's say, 3 years. What are those effects on your heart health 10 or 20 or 30 years down the road? We don't really have that data yet. However, based on just the general knowledge around what foods and what health conditions are beneficial for long-term health, eating a lot of animal products, like red meat and foods that are really high in saturated fat and cholesterol is certainly not recommended, right? The biggest things about this, the ketogenic diet are, one, you're following a diet that's so high in saturated fat and cholesterol and animal products, and that's like all you're eating. And it's such a high fat diet, right? Like that's where the majority of your calories are coming from. Two, the other thing is that your diet is almost devoid in plant foods, and plant foods offer a lot of benefits from a nutritional perspective. They offer fiber, vitamins, nutrients, minerals, phytonutrients, antioxidants, like all these beneficial compounds that have been shown to be really protective and supportive for the body, supportive for digestive health, gut health, immune function, all these things. You are almost eliminating all of those foods from your diet. So not only are you eating an ultra high fat diet that's also really high in saturated fat and cholesterol, you're removing some of the most nutritious foods from your diet, right? So if your only goal is 1 month or 2 months of weight loss, is the keto diet a good fit for you and you have no care in the world about the long-term side effects and you're fine with dealing with the keto flu, I guess the keto diet is a good fit for you. Would I ever recommend it to someone? Absolutely not. Like if there's one diet I would really recommend staying far away from, the keto diet comes second. First comes the carnivore diet. And there's probably another, let me know you guys if you want me to do a video about the carnivore diet, because that is like, if you thought keto was bad, wait till we talk about that. But really overall, the keto diet can certainly have benefits for weight loss, but at what cost, right? That's always the question with these diets, you guys. And that's really the point I want to make in this diet culture debunk series, is that sure, these diets can help you lose weight, but at what cost to your sanity, your mental health, your physical health, your long-term well-being, right? That's something that really doesn't get talked enough about when we are talking about these diets, is everyone's so focused on the here and now and what are the immediate outcomes I can get. How fast can I lose weight? I want to lose 20 pounds by my vacation in 2 months. Can I do that, right? Sure, I mean, if that's your only goal, then one, this video probably doesn't make much sense for you, and two, you're probably the type of person who would love the keto diet. But I really want you to ask yourself, like, what are the long-term outcomes that you are looking to have from doing this, right? So I hope now that, you have some more information about like, how does the keto diet work? What's sort of the history of it? What are the long-term risks of it? Hopefully you have that information. So now when you're talking to your friends and family, because this is such a popular diet, you guys, just like, it's really, I feel like, taking the world by storm. And a lot of people who go on it are only looking at the short-term weight loss effects. They're not thinking about the long-term health impacts that it's going to have. So hopefully now that you have some info, you can be armed with that and casually slip it into conversation. So we're not doing it in a judgy way, but we're just telling people that this is probably not the best thing. So all that to say, the keto diet is just like, it's just not something I would ever recommend. And it is just, can be honestly like just dangerous for people, So I'm really curious. I'm curious if you guys have tried the keto diet yourselves. Curious if you have been able to not just lose weight, but been able to maintain that weight loss in the long term. And just your thoughts and feelings about it. So I think that's it for now. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. It really helps my channel. And if you want to see more of the Diet Culture Debunk series, go ahead and hit subscribe and make sure you check out the other videos in this playlist, okay? I can't wait to see you guys again soon. Take care.